So I want to talk about managing your finances as a professor. Hopefully you're going to learn something from this and it's going to be really simple. I don't want to go into a lot of nitty gritty stuff, but I want to give you an overview on how to manage your finances as a professor. We've done a pretty good job, my family and and I want to hopefully help you out in terms of managing. And my ultimate goal is to make you happy and healthy, and that's it. That is ultimately it. I want to give you hope and make you feel that you're happy and healthy. And if you are financially secure, I think that really makes a big difference. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Massac. I'm an associate professor of innovation strategy and entrepreneurship, and I created this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people that help me out that I want to pay the favor for it to help you out. So I think the biggest secret to managing your finances as a professor is there's two ways to sort of think about this, right? You want to minimize the liabilities that you have, the sort of things that you have to pay out, and maximize all of the potential income that's coming in on that one side, right? So I guess maybe it's that side for you, right? So you would just want to make sure that things are growing, right? So the more revenue that's coming in, the less costs that are going out. So how do you do that? So for us, we minimize the amount of, we don't have a lot of credit card debt and things like that. We've done that in the past. We sort of tried to play these credit card games. We tried to do that for a couple of months and it was a disaster. It was really hard to do that. So I would not recommend having a lot of credit card debt. We have one credit card and our limit is not that high on it. And the reason is that all of those credit card companies, they all know what you're about. They're really, really smart. Behaviorally, they're really smart. And they're going to figure out all the little tricks to get all the money from you as much as they can. Right, so you want to minimize that. The other thing to think about is to minimize the risk that is associated with you as a person, right? So the risk being making sure that you have your health insurance and all of that kind of stuff, and particularly in the United States and other countries that do that sort of private healthcare insurance thing. Make sure that you have that. Like I know even in Canada, I'm Canadian and now I live in the United States. Even in Canada, it's wise to have pharmaceutical insurance for anybody that, or drug insurance. Like those are really important things. The only one I wouldn't recommend, I've looked into, is dental insurance. Not sort of a great plan. It's because it's pretty planned out in terms of when you need to get this kind of stuff. So insurance is there for, that sort of catastrophic event. But the way that sort of teeth work is they kind of, you go for your regular maintenance anyways. And so generally you can look into that. And that's in my personal experience, that has been sort of worked out for us. So, minimizing those things, looking at the insurances, making sure you have that, making sure you have a will in case you do die and you have dependents that you can pass on to other people. Like things like that are really, really important to make sure that you're financially secure going forward. The other thing is to make sure that you have a pool of money that is for everydayness, right? So, if you listen to Dave Ramsey recommends $1,000, I recommend, so for us, it's a couple $1,000, maybe just slightly more than that we just kind of have in a checking account. That's just for everydayness, right? Like kind of that buffering that happens. And some days you have a bit of an emergency and you have to pay for a car, parts or something like that. You have that money that's sitting there. That's an important thing to have. And then we just use a checking account for that. There's nothing really like fancy for any of that kind of stuff. But the real big secret here is to pay off all of your debts as quick as you possibly can. And, and this is where I'm really close. If you listen to Dave Ramsey, he actually makes sense in terms of behaviorally, in terms of what to do. So looking for the shortest, the smallest amount and pay off that smallest amount first. Doesn't matter what the interest rate is, all that kind of stuff. And the reason is you just get hyped up and the behavior behind it is really, really important, right? So getting rid of your credit card debt and stuff like that first. That's going to be really helpful. And then getting towards the bigger things, right? Like paying off, your mortgage and all those kind of things are bigger things. But you want to kind of do those steps I think he calls them baby steps, and they make a complete amount of sense in terms of what we're doing. And it's the same sort of fashion. I wouldn't recommend anything different. Like if you have school loans, pay off those damn school loans as fast as you can. You cannot fathom how much they sort of weigh you down. And when you, like I literally remember crying in the kitchen when we paid those off because there's so much stress on our shoulders when I was going through it. And especially as a PhD student and graduate student, like you are bogged down, you feel really bad about these things. And so how do you do that? You live like, you live weird, ultimately. You're gonna live weird. You're gonna have like old stuff and you're gonna be living out of like, sometimes if you want to go extreme, you buy it at the Salvation Army, you buy your clothes and stuff, and you just live really poor for how much you're actually bringing in. And everybody's going to make fun of you and all that kind of stuff, where you're going to feel that. Screw it. Who cares? Right? Like drive around that stupid junky car. My car is a 2011. It's now 2022. And all of our cars we've ever owned have been like 12, 13 years old by the time we actually got rid of them. And now we're at a stage in our life where we're okay, and we can, manage things if there was crises that was going to happen, right? Like one of us, my wife or me, got cancer, God forbid, or something like that, we'd be okay. And we'd be able to manage these things. And that's what you want to be, right? Like I don't believe that everybody needs to be ultra wealthy and all that kind of stuff. That's nonsense. That's stupid. There's people like buying into all of these sleazeball stuff. But, to have a financial security where you're just comfortable, I think that is what you want to be at, right? Like if something was to happen, you're like, whatever, who cares? So looking at how you can pay off those debts so that if something was to happen, you don't feel any of that threat. And you're looking to buffer, having some sort of buffer from the environment. And that's a really big thing. So with PhD students, that is a tricky thing as a professor, is to pay off all those debts. But working that down is going to be the most important thing for you to do, in my view, is to whittle those things down. So, how do you whittle those down? Live poorly, look for higher paying jobs. That's ultimately going to be a big thing, is looking for those higher paying jobs wherever you can. And balancing, that sort of research career that you have and paying that stuff down. I think all of the extra stuff that you might think that actually is going to pay off, like this whole reciprocity project for me was a bust. Total bust so far. I've been doing it for so long, it's not making any money in any sort of way. But, it's hopefully it's helping out other people. And that's the big thing. In terms of like, actually, if I was to maximize my income as much as I can, I'd be doing job hunting a lot more, and I would be switching from position to position. That's how you play the game in academia. You got to switch from position to position fairly, not so often that it's weird, but every three to 5 years, you're switching to a different place. That's how people move up a fair bit. If you see that, that's kind of what people do. The problem is you have to move, and it's very like a big thing, right? So that's what you have to do, is minimize, live poorly, and look for ways that you can maximize the income. So for us, we actually live in a town that's pretty reasonable to live in, and that makes sense in terms of living poorly. And it sort of helps out. So if we were to go to New York, that would be a lot harder to manage some of these things. But you can do it. You can find a place that would actually be suitable for you. So looking at all those things, right, you're just maximizing the amount of income that's coming in and minimizing those costs that you have and the liabilities, the sort of potential catastrophic events that you're going to have coming forward. And think about that as much as you can and really plan for that. Oh, one secret. This is the big secret, and it's not really a secret, is to take 15% of your income. Once you pay off the major, like your school loans and things like that, right? Like that's your biggest liability. It's a big risk. There's a lot of interest that's affiliated with that. Pay those school loans off. But after, start putting 15% of your income in index funds and really good long-term mutual funds. They've been around for a long time. Sometimes your institutions have them. And you can look into those. And those are going to be really helpful for you. If you do that, you're going to have, 15% of your income for 30 years, 40 years. You're going to have millions and millions of dollars to your name. simply by just living, and that's it. Like that's really it. That's the mathematics behind it. You can look it up. Pretty easy calculations to do. You could do that with a savings calculator to figure it out. The interest rate on the index funds, or which are like mutual funds, they're buying into many different companies on the stock market, so the American and global economy, basically. If you do that, it's about 10% per year, ish, right? 10% per year. And if you do that for many years, that adds up real quick, and it turns into some big lump sum where you can be financially secure and retire by the time that, I don't know, if you did this, you retire by the time you're 60 and be totally fine and not have to worry about a thing. So hopefully this helps you out. And, I could do a lot more stuff like this if people pay attention to it, but nobody ever does, damn it. This is important stuff, but nobody ever does. All right. So anyways, give me a thumbs up. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.